Okay, guys, this is Strong Principles, and I'm Rob Delacruz.
I'm Wendy Shafransky.
I'm Larry Medina.
All right, guys.
And we are Strong Principles.
Oh. All right, guys. Today we're going to talk about finding the sweet spot of training. So in order to make progress in the gym, build muscle, there's a kind of a range you want to be in. You don't want to just kind of go through the motions and it be not enough effort, but you don't want to go overboard and tax yourself, lead to injury, that sort of thing. So we're going to talk about that sweet spot, and I'm going to make some generalizations for what we see in the gym. So typically it's the women who don't push themselves hard enough. So you have, a circuit, they're doing a movement, say for 8 reps. And over time, you notice it looks really easy for them and they're using the same weight time and time again. So they're just kind of going through the motions. Maybe it's fear, maybe they don't want to get bulky and, it's that attitude, but it tends to be women that don't push themselves hard enough when they can move correctly. On the flip side, when we're telling people to do less weight, it typically is the men. And so there's a little bit of an, ego lifting there. And if we're asking them to lower the weight, it's because they're not doing it correctly. So, they're not doing themselves any favors if they load the bar up with, 400 pounds and they're just doing like a quarter squat. We're not impressed by that. So
I've seen that reel of the guy where he's like squatting. It's very,
Hey,
I'm thinking like, what are you doing?
We run into it all the time just for the load. But I mean, despite what you hear, like some researchers or some fitness influencer that never trained people or is like 30 years old, movement quality is always more effective. And the better quality of movement you have, then you get a more effective outcome from the loads you use. And then understanding that will make you go a lot further than trying to push yourself, but the movement quality looks terrible.
Right. And I mean, when people think of weightlifting, they think of bodybuilders and they think stiffness, but actually weightlifting creates more mobility in your body if you are using those full ranges of motion. But so I guess we can kind of address each cohort. So for the people that aren't pushing themselves in the gym, a lot of times as coaches, they say, well, what weight should I use? Like they're not.
And that's a great question. Cause like I have, I do run into that every now and then where like, if somebody comes up to like, well, what weight should I use? And I'm like,
I don't know.
Well, but to me, I tell them, well, start taking warm-up sets because people want to just jump into a working set. So we're constant reminders. Take, at least 2 to 3 warm-up sets to establish your weight. And then, so you're going to be, if it says we're doing 3 sets, you're actually probably doing 6, but your central nervous system, your muscle,
making sure everything feels good, moves good, like everything feels all right. So if you ever been around really strong people that compete in the strength sports, and you watch them warm up, or someone that has been doing it a long time that has like really good like knowledge base, you'll see them warm up with like a bar and then just a few pounds. And then, but they can snatch, clean, jerk, whatever, squat 500 and something pounds, but you come up and you put 185 to start, like, what? That's like really close to your max. I don't understand like the logic in that. Well, I don't want to like wear myself out. Wear yourself out. You're never going to make like.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to like the people.
That's young me, by the way. Young me would have been
young guys.
Young me, 225. This is where we're like legit. I would just put 225 and warm up with 10. Yeah. Although my max is probably like 12. You know?
Wendy was right. So like we always explain, it's like the more practice, the better you get. And a lot of movements has to do like neurologically, you're learning. Like there's a strength aspect that happens like physiologically, but a lot of it is neurological. And it's like your body learning how to deal with the weight. And then it's allowing you to explicitly use your strength to move it. But if it's not learning or it feels comfortable, it will not let you use your strength that you even have.
Right. But back to the people that don't really, push themselves. So take warm-up sets if you're unsure of what weight to do, because it could fluctuate depending on how you feel. It's not always going to be an upward trajectory. So warm up. And you want to go to a weight where your last rep feels difficult, but you probably have another couple in the tank, So for, the people that are just kind of, just going through the motions and not feeling like they really got uncomfortable, you need to learn to get a little bit uncomfortable. Like, oh, that was tough. But if I had to, I could do another one.
Yeah, Wendy, what do you say when someone says, because I know when I run into it, well, I saw or I read that you should always go to failure.
I mean, there is some evidence that that's beneficial to strength gains, but I mean, I think it just taxes you so much that, you want to hit each set with the same intensity and try to keep, or even maybe even increase the weight. So you don't want to just blow it all out of the water at first.
I almost feel like it's the conversation of what's the cost of going to failure every time, right? Like, and this is just from your conversations that I'm getting of like, okay, well, is it more of like, if I do go to failure every time, what is my cost in the long run versus a prescribed go to almost failure and you still have some in the tank, but there's some less of a cost, but the risk reward scenario.
Right.
Yeah. There's a big difference. And the thing is, effort means more than going to failure. Did you put a good effort into it? Going to failure, some people don't understand that. And a lot of times more of that has to deal with a strength athlete that is focusing on like some kind of strength sport. When it comes to the general population just getting stronger, it's their effort that they're putting into it.
Right. So yeah. So if you don't feel like you're doing the correct weight, or you feel like you're going through the motions, take your warm-up sets, lift a weight that you think you could probably do for a couple more reps, but it was hard, and really connect to the muscle. Think about the muscle groups that you're using when you're lifting. Use a good tempo. Don't run through it. Just being very aware of that will help. I mean, I could make a really lightweight feel heavy by going really slow, doing isometric holds, that sort of thing. But if you're just jamming through it because you're used to HIIT classes or CrossFit or whatever, you're not going to get the benefit of the program that we're writing.
And even understand like how to have really good quality of movement. Like bodybuilders do a good job. Like Wendy was just talking about, they can make light weights feel heavy just by the way they concentrate on it. And bodybuilders a lot of times are strong too. There's a time to concentrate on things, and then there's a time to move quickly through something like dynamic. Now, are you separating those? But they're always looking good doing it where movement quality is number one.
Right. And then on the flip side, so the people that add too much weight and their movement quality sucks, that they need to kind of check their ego.
Wendy's is calling people out left right.
They do.
Your movement quality sucks.
Yeah. No, I mean, we see it all the time. And they need to check their ego. Are they worried more about what they look like or the number that's on the bar? And most times it's the number that's on the bar. And people kind of get in that whole mentality of they're working out with somebody and he's going heavier, I'm going to go heavier, whatever. But this is where you need to take a step back and think of lifting as a skill. So you're going lighter, but you're going through proper ranges of motion. Maybe you're going slower, so you're adding intensity. But like I'll take the squat for instance. You're getting used to being at the bottom of the squat, not caving in, not rounded back. We've done things where, all right, we notice people aren't going low enough and they're just adding weight. So we'll do a couple weeks where we do pauses at the bottom, and you can't go very heavy there. So people know what the bottom feels like. So we're lifting for skill. But then a lot of times when we go to the full back squats, like I know what bottom looks like, but
what happens is they don't feel the difference. So that's why you got to spend a lot of time into it.
Yeah, and to your point about the skill, like specifically the squat, right? Because there's a lot of skill in the squat itself. Like I used to always feel like you had to be like this, like butt out, right?
Like a low back squat.
Yeah,
yeah,
and it's
low bar.
I mean,
yeah, and it's not good. Right.
It depends. So it depends
really
on what you're using it for. So that's they would consider that a weightlifting squat, Olympic squat, and that's the way we mostly squat. It's super dependent on like what are you using it for. The difference and variation of back squats. One of them has a little more like quad development, glutes and hamstrings when you go low. The other one has like all of it has back. Your back's involved isometrically, but has a little bit of back, a little more hamstrings, a little more like it looks like you're going backwards almost onto it. One's shins coming over close to the toes more, and the other one's more vertical. Depends on what you're using them for.
Right.
Now, if someone looks like that because they can't change, then yeah, that's not very good. They look like they're on like a leg press. Right. Then you need to be careful with that, and they need to lower the weight and like let's work on the mobility or like put something behind your heels there.
To your point, a lot of skill there.
Yeah. And
So-
then Rob just brought up mobility. I mean, that's another part of it. This is the thing that people don't like doing because it's not exciting and fun, but they don't realize that focusing on that is going to allow them to get those big numbers and that. But it's hard to convince people to do it. I mean, they do it in our gym, right before a session, but there's each individual should be doing something else for them. Like they have tight shoulders. We've shown everybody how to release them with a band. They have tight lats. They know how to do a lat stretch, but unless there, a lot of them don't become autonomous and just kind of do it on their own if it's not written in the program, even though they've been taught. But that would, oh my gosh, that would change their performance.
Yeah, the
That
more
makes
you
sense.
understand and the more knowledge base that you personally have, the more effective the training becomes because you have a true understanding of it. But if you're just kind of like just looking at things and just relying on like, hey, what's on the board? I don't really know what I should do weight wise. You're always going to be in that kind of perpetual circle of that. I always like, and I'm stealing this from Joe DeFranco, like PR is like pristine reps. One thing I like to do with people is you go and you make the back squat we'll use. Can you tell the difference in weight? And you have someone look at like 5 different back squats, totally different weights, but it looks the same. And then you let them see and it's like, oh, okay. It's from 300 and something all the way down to 135, but they all look the same in reps. That's when that's going to be really effective. All those squats look exactly the same, no matter what the weight is.
Right. So yeah, if you're someone who wants to get to the next level with a certain weight and do it right, really you need to lean into the boring, the mobility, the lifting as a skill, and wrapping your head around the fact that if I want to progress, I need to regress for a little while. But when I learned the pose running technique, I got slower, but then I took off afterwards. So it was frustrating for a little while, but then I wasn't injured, because I wasn't like heel striking, and I was fine after that,
That's interesting you say about the boring, right? Because I feel that way about people who are successful in life. A lot of times, like they're the most boring person that you'll ever meet. However, they're satisfied and they're successful.
Right.
Well, a lot of times they'll do the small things over and over again instead of trying to jump past where they're supposed to be because they understand the journey.
Yep. Yeah. No.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. So better quality of movement makes each exercise and every rep more effective. So you can have more effective reps with lower weight, or you can up the weight and have less effective reps. So it's kind of.
So I'm intrigued by, so you actually prescribe like the bands and all that, like as part of your warm up?
Yeah. So we have a group warm up that everybody goes through and they know the movements by now. And a lot of it's repetition because, your adductors, if we squat, your hips, that sort of thing. But there are some that are a little more involved that we know someone can't hold the bar in a rack position because their lats are tight. So we've shown them multiple times how to do that and said, hey, especially on days where we're doing cleans or front squats, like you need to come in and do that in addition to. And then you see them come in early, they do the group warm up, and then they sit there. You're like, hey, what about your lats? So it's constantly, trying to push people to.
It's a good point because I always think like, oh, you know what? I'll stretch while we're sitting there watching. I never do it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, because like it's not part, like it's that moment has already passed. Like I should do it when.
See that you'll always notice, and when you're watching people, the people that have like the biggest knowledge base in training in general warm up the best. Not necessarily the best athletes, but they have the biggest knowledge base and like a lot of wisdom. They'll warm up the best. Sometimes like really good athletes or someone that's just like naturally flexible, they just come in and just like, oh, I'm fine, and just go into it. That catches up to everybody. So some days you come in and you're like real stiff, and other days you're like, oh man, I just feel good. Well, you'll have more days of feeling better than going in because you can get past that stiffness if you warm up properly.
Yeah, people don't even know what Rob does. So on days where he has to open the gym, his first class is at 5. He gets up at 3. He goes out in the garage, puts his yoga mat down, and because he knows he's going to be moving around and demoing things, he does a ton of mobility, takes a hot shower, before 5 a.m., you know, and then before his workout, he does his own series of mobility. And actually, you do it a lot at home at night too. Yeah. And we're not asking people to do that, no. but you know, but
that's what I do for a living, kind of.
But they'll look at him too and go, wow, his squat at, you know, 375 looks the same as it did at 225. And it's like, yeah, you know, because he's mobile, he's warmed up appropriately, he didn't take big jumps, like, you know.
And so, yes, that's pretty crazy. But when I walk, I feel like I need to defend myself for a second. Like, all right,
no life.
No one's going to do this. No. So
again, successful people are boring.
So I used to just come in, and then someone asked me to do something. I go to do something. Like there were so many times, like, oh my God, I feel like I pulled something. And then I started like, all right, I need to be prepared when they come in. They're going to start asking me questions early in the morning. So I need to have a routine. I feel much better, and then I'm able to start my day. And that's just kind of what I started doing, and that's what I do every time.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
So just kind of we went a little bit off tangent, but no worries. That's the beauty of this.
Yeah, at 3 o'clock hurts in the morning.
But in talking about finding that sweet spot of training, if you don't feel like you're really pushing yourselves, take warm-up sets. Get to a weight that those last few reps are difficult, but if you had to do a couple more, you could. And this is keeping in, you know, that you have good movement patterns. And then if you're one that kind of ego lifts, it looks ugly when you get to a certain weight, take a step back, approach lifting more like a skill, and keep it in your head that you want, you know, that almost max effort to look very similar, if not the same, to like the really low warm-up sets. And I'm going to be judged by the beauty of this lift, you know, like it's gymnastics.
Yeah, that's what I used to say this with the CrossFit stuff. You know, they always went by time, how fast, but in gymnastics and Olympic lifting, the way you look when you do had a lot to do with the score you'd get. So I always thought there should have been like a score of like how fast and the way you looked, and it could like kind of nullify. But the thing is, to back Wendy up, is about the movement quality on her. Always concentrate on it. Think of the training as practice, and the more reps you get in, the better the practice and the better you get at that skill. It's like kind of like that 10,000 rep thing. That's there's a lot of truth to that. The more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. So you're not wasting reps, you're practicing them.
Otherwise, we're going to put pictures of Rob's stank face all over the gym and say, what would Rob think before you lift? Think.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. So yeah, always keep in mind, if you're lifting at home, think of the Rob stank face.
Exactly. Yes. I can get you one if you want.
There you go. A big head.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Strong principles.
All right. Thank you.